Well, hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Richard and this is Lap of the World, your home for road trips and racetracks. And we have indeed just returned from a road trip to a racetrack at the wonderful Waterford Hills facility up there just north of Pontiac, Michigan. That was a ton of fun, and I assure you I am furiously editing the track feature as well as a how-to installment similar to the one that I did after the firm that actually had a lot of I think positive feedback from that, and of course the ubiquitous but oft don't necessarily get all that many views, although I will continue to do them because I understand that their practical application can be indispensable if you're trying to learn a track. There will also of course be a Just the Laps video for those people who want to watch someone turn competent if unspectacular laps around a racing circuit in order to learn its layout and find the line before going themselves without necessarily watching me talk or do other YouTuber things in the process. So those will all be coming. I'm working on them now. But for today, I wanted to have a quick discussion, or a couple of quick discussions, because the NSX, as you can see, I've got it elevated back here, and that's not without reason. Now, the car did, of course, it made it home. I think this was a total of a 1,200 mile round trip, if you include the miles around the track as well. And that was largely accomplished without incident, but not completely without incident, and we'll get to that. We did roll over 284,000 miles on the way up to the track and 285,000 miles on the way back home. So a couple of small milestones there on the march to hopefully invariably 300,000 miles on this car. I don't think I'm going to get there this year for obvious reasons, but soon, trademark. Anyway, before we get to though what is slightly amiss with the NSX, I did want to take a moment and have a brief discussion about the sort of social responsibility aspect of going and doing a track day in the current, situation such as it is. Now, this for me was kind of an experiment, but it was an experiment that I felt that I had enough control over, the variables, that it was worth the attempt. I am not one to take my own health or anyone else's lightly at all, and so I just wanted to quickly talk about how I tried to do this. And some of you will probably think this is complete, levels of paranoia. Others will still think that I'm probably being irresponsible by even going and doing an event that involves more than the people that I live with. But I think, moderation with everything, and I'm certainly of the mind of if there's a possibility of avoiding exposure or not contributing to more of the problem of the situation, I'm going to take the safest route possible while still sort of living my life. So, to quickly summarize the steps that I took on this trip to remain safe, of course, I had my mask with me the entire time. This is a Gata Gear mask. I'll put a link in the description. This came recommended for me from another NSX community member, although I'm not sponsored and there's no affiliation here. It's a silicone outer shell, has a plastic or nylon inner container that sandwiches a legitimate KN95 filter element in the mask. So had the proper filtration to filter viruses, and I really kept that sucker on, if I wasn't eating, drinking, or in the car by myself, I had the mask on. To its credit, as far as a mask can be comfortable to wear for, probably 8 to 9 hours in a day, that accomplished the job just fine. I definitely had like a stripe when I was done with the day, but cost of doing business, and nobody can see that if I'm wearing a mask anyway. Additionally, I packed all of my meals, so I did not eat out once, even though I was away from the house. So leaving the house, I took, I ate kind of a late brunch before I left the house on Friday to get up to the track. I took my dinner with me. Liz packed me a tasty dinner in the form of something that was going to be easy to consume, which is so like kind of a sandwich and accoutrement. something easy to consume on the road. And then I also took various snacks and drinks and things like that. While I was up there, I did go to a grocery store once. I figured that was less me touching stuff and being near people than anything else, to again get, I was able to keep my cooler filled with ice from the hotel, and that let me get some, stuff that still needed to be refrigerated that I could then eat for lunch and dinner the following day. And then just got some Pop-Tarts to fill in, because those are prepackaged and nobody has touched them since they came out of the factory. So it's, there was nobody was touching my food between some presumably sterile production facility and my mouth. So took that step. I also took with me a package of sanitizing wipes. Won't get into brands or anything here, but a package of sanitizing wipes that I could then, anything that I had to touch in between. So, hey, I need to use a gas pump. Well, great. I can just wipe down the handle because I have a sanitary wipe there with me that will kill any viruses on the thing if there's not a paper towel handy to handle the gas pump. Also, when I went into my, most of the places that I stopped were pretty, I think Michigan seems to be pretty serious about it. Most of the places that I found there were, mask mandates and had, shields up and everything for their, various cashiers and desk workers and things like that, which was nice to see. Once I get to the hotel, I did go in and I wiped everything down that I thought I would touch in the hotel room. Again, the assumption is that it had been cleaned and sanitized in the meantime, but, hey, better safe than sorry. So sanitized everything in my hotel room. So I really, as far as overall interactions with people, we stayed socially distanced at the track. I think I accepted a business card from somebody. That's about the closest that I got. And even then, some hand sanitizer, and then trying not to touch my face the whole time. That was a bit difficult, I will admit, because I was sweating a lot, and I did not bring with me a towel or something like that I could have used for that. But again, just trying to keep things away from my eyes and nose and mouth as much as I possibly could. So, has that been successful? Well, I'll have to let you know in probably 2 weeks, right? Because you don't know. A lot of people have tried really hard and still been afflicted with it. The hope is that I was careful and safe enough that I'm not going to be part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution. I don't want to be part of the problem, but that remains to be seen. But anyway, those are the steps that I took, just in case there was anybody who was curious if I had suddenly kind of stopped taking things seriously and gone back out into the world just willy-nilly. No, not so much. But I digress. Moving on to the NSX and what has gone wrong with it. It's kind of one of those things where you see the, Tennessee man drives his 285,000 mile, sports car, 1,200 miles, does a track day, and something breaks. No one is surprised, right? But this car has generally been fairly reliable, and the stuff that has gone wrong this time, I think, is pretty minor and pretty correctable. One thing I'm going to address in the off season, the other one I'm going to have to address fairly soon if I want to continue driving the car. The first part was that in the second session, I believe it was, I actually found what I believe is the natural thermal limit of the car's cooling system. This track it's very technical, but it's not very fast. And it's actually brilliant from a gearing standpoint. Normally with the NSX, I'm sort of like in that no man's land because of the super tall gearing on the USDM gear set. I'm usually in that no man's land of like, it's too fast for the top of second, but third gear really isn't in the power band yet. And fourth gear, yeah, sure, I might hit fourth gear on the longest straight on a big track. I've never seen fifth gear at a circuit that I've been to yet. And that includes like Road America and Road Atlanta. Top of fourth gear at the most. But this track was right in the wheelhouse. I was either in like the meat of the power band in second, just being able to squirt between corners, or at most I was getting for the top of third on the back straight and the front straight before the braking zones. And the front straight, I don't even know if I was at the top of third, but I was in the power band in third. But what that meant, though, was that I was high in the rev range a lot, but lower forward velocity than you might expect for most of the time. And what that led to was that basically means you don't have as much, your ratio of airflow through the radiator to heat you're generating with those high RPMs gets skewed a little bit. The fins on this radiator, which I don't know if it's ever been replaced, to be honest. The fins on this radiator have seen better days. They are beat to hell, for lack of a better term. I probably will look in the off season. People have told me, various people have told me that I should probably look to upgrade that anyway, because these radiators, the OEM radiators, are plastic. They have plastic cap or plastic end caps on them, which I've been told are time bombs. Although, I mean, clearly your mileage may vary given the luck so far, we'll call it, that I've had with this one. But yeah, I'll probably look into some of our trusted aftermarket solutions in the NSX community, of which there are a few. I'm not going to get into which brands I'm looking at this point, because that's kind of in the weeds. But that'll be probably a 2020-2021 off-season small project there. It's probably about time for a coolant flush anyway, so no extra, no harm, no foul there, I guess. The second thing that went wrong in the trip, though, I noticed it as it was perfect timing for a problem, if I'm honest. As I packed the car up for the day, I was pretty much done, and as I was pulling out of the gate to start my way home, I noticed that when I let the clutch out to pull onto the entry road, the pedal didn't come all the way back up. And I thought that was odd, so I just kind of flipped it with my toe and it popped right back to the top. So it's kind of one of those things, you're like, stuff could have gotten hot or something could have gotten futzed with the pedal assembly, but we're going to watch that. And indeed, as I was pulling into my hotel, or kind of making my way into the hotel, I killed the car twice, and I was like, I am either a total noob or my clutch is going out. And I kind of figured what was going on at that point. I was like, all right, so I popped the frunk in the parking lot, and indeed the clutch fluid reservoir was not quite empty, but very close to empty. So I caught it just in time. Fortunately, I had some extra brake fluids. It's probably overkill using using Motul RBF 600 for your clutch is not normally necessary, I think, but in this case it was, because that's what I had. But I was able to limp it home, and after some, it didn't take much inspection to figure out the problem. I think, you either have the master cylinder or the slave cylinder, because it's clearly a hydraulic issue and something's leaking. And indeed, after popping the rear wheel off and taking a very quick look, it became immediately evident that it's either some combination of the clutch slave cylinder and or the clutch line. There's a flexible clutch line that connects the hard lines that come from the front, because it has to span across the engine, which has to move. There's a flex line there. It's either that flex line or it's the slave cylinder itself. I will probably just replace both of them. The flex line is original to the car, so that's 200 and a gajillion miles and whatever, nearly 30 years old, more than 30 years old, I don't know. It's old. Good news, though, as I did, before I pulled the wheel off, I did check the wheel bearing. For those of you who've been following this channel for long enough, you will be pleased to know that the driver's rear wheel bearing was still not a wiggle. Not even a little bit. It's still just perfectly good. And this is going on now probably a couple of years since I finally kind of think I figured that out. So that's kind of my update. I'm going to now get to work sort of, I gotta wait on parts for the clutch, so I'm not going to deal with that right now. I'm going to finish kind of checking the car over in general, but everything else looks like it's in pretty good shape. And then I'm going to get back in the house and continue editing on the Waterford Hills feature, how-to, and laps videos. Those will be out probably next week. I did have a great time up there, and I do want to thank the track management, event coordinators, everyone. I think I'm going to miss people here, but I know Ed, who does a spectacular drivers meeting. It's one of the more what I would call higher production value drivers meetings that I've seen in my day. And a shout out to Cindy, who's one of the volunteer workers there, and also an NSX NSX community dignitary. But yeah, so look forward to those videos next week. And in the meantime, I'm Richard. This is Lap of the World, and I will see you in the next video, if not at the track.